thanks, but you definitely want to come down. This is a great day. It's a great day for live music. And besides that, you WREW listeners make this possible. This is what we call donation reciprocation. You make this festival possible with your generous donations during our on-air fundraiser. We're about to get back into music now, and this is the rhythms of the earth, the rhythms of the world in this next piece and this next group. Abdullah Ibrahim, Sam Phillips, Warren Levert, John Spazzillo, Jordan Khaliduddin, and Daniel Thompson are Hand to Mouth.
Again, you're returning to the haunts of the lonely, the broken on the childhood side of town. Read the signs. Ignore alien orders. Road narrows till another deserves one good turn. Forgetting nothing, exit on the off chance. You may leap from your car in ecstasy. Hunger after light, divine for water. Turning over the heart's new leaf to the dark music inside. Night coming on quickly. Listen, if you were homeless, you'd be home now. Ohio, I'm following you down the road. I'm tailgating you. I'm so close I can read your license plate. It says you're the heart of it all. But it seems your heart has turned Arctic cold with 6 months of darkness, 6 months of light. Who can make it through when a half year of days is one long, cold, black night? Who can survive the praise of the light? All is gray now. The sky is filled with waves of gulls, the airwaves with violence. Into the flats we go, down to the river. Oh, throw your heart into its fire, Ohio. Let it melt. I'll be your tug and pull you to the sea. Even the broken letters of the heart spell earth. Let the heart beat for the trees, their perfection. The ancient rain, the open spaces along the river, the species that are endangered, the tiger burning bright, the flower, the honeybee. The frozen places of silence, the cruel bottom of the sea, the schools of fish made truant, and in the sky the ozone's wound and the bird's nest, and the eye that rests on the sparrow. Even the earth of the broken-hearted can heal.
Hi, I'm River Smith, one of the producers of this video, along with Tom Smith and Sam Phillips. And I'm here down at the West Side Market, and specifically over at Market Square Park, where Daniel spent many, many, many days, along with other poets, reciting poetry, talking politics, helping people understand what was at stake in daily life for people of all backgrounds. And as part of that, Daniel actually is still evidenced here by his very famous poem, and Fruits and Vegetables, and he's been sort of immortalized here with it. And the thing to remember, as we had to remember as we were doing this video, was that we wanted to capture Daniel in all of the areas that he was active, and that included making poetry public, and it included making politics poetry. And you know, it's not all that ironic that if they were going to name a street after Daniel, it would be an alley in downtown Cleveland. Daniel frequented the alleys, and he frequented the homeless shelters, and he frequented the streets because he was a man of Cleveland. He was a man of the streets, and he was somebody who had a lot to say and had a lot of deeds to do. And he said a lot, and he did a lot, and he was never far from his message and his ministry of making a difference for all of us in this society. And so as we did this video, and we mainly drew from the archives of Liberation Brew, but then also Sam reached out to people from many backgrounds to bring in lots of material that we could use for this video. And so this is one more time that we have a chance, those of us who are friends and admirers of Daniel's, to pay tribute to him and to celebrate his life.
The ghosts of anarchists are riding bicycles in Lakeview Cemetery, as unemployed poets, bearded and drunk on leisure, put away their pens and pull out their penises to piss on the obelisk of John D. Rockefeller. They pull out their peckers to pee on John D., not because they are so poor they don't have a pot to piss in, but because John D., that oil-slick, philanthropic prick with the thin smile beneath a plutocratic hat and the thin shiny dime in his long bony Baptist grasping capitalist hand, a coin he'd offer as if it were a Eucharistic wafer, through his son and others of the same silky ilk and cold-fish militia mentality. Oh, bloody body of Christ, swung low his sweet charity in Ludlow, Colorado, the gun butt to the skull, the boot in the face, everything moving shot up, men dying along with chickens and dogs, the women and children in tents set ablaze, machine gun massacred, all caught in the fiery cave below. Miners and their kin served the hard death again. Miners who dared to stand up and strike. And because his grandson is governor of New York, upholding the family tradition, put a full Nelson on Attica, Attica, Attica. Let's run the tape once more. The chopper drops the gas, the marksmen fire, the troops move in. Men who are not beasts are cut down like beasts. No hostage blindfolded was as blind as his justice. No knife to the throat was as cruel. Oh, pity the women in the eye of the nightmare, and the children of the brothers who died inside. And pity us all in this rocky road, victims of the rocky horror show of those in power who have died inside.
Hey Daniel, we're really going to miss you, but we're going to go on just like you always went on, and we're going to take what you taught us and we're going to teach it to the next generation. So thank you. Thank you for everything.
Fanatic. Into the room's dark gestures, the skin invites itself again. Into the broken light, the reckless eye zeroes in, moving toward the window open to the moon, its errant beauty caught in the tree's calligraphy, this tree where the hanged man, our Savior, lives. Oh, bitter words uprooted from the heart's sweet tongue, carried by the wind's teeth, biting through the stars, to beyond the sky, to the ear of God. I was such a fanatic once. You still are, her voice breaks in. The mirror cracks, blood springs from the hands and feet. You still are, she says, wrapping my trembling life like a homeless street person in the blanket of her phrase, a fanatic of the moment.
Speak up for those and care for those that are homeless and need the hope of the heart that is from the angel's wings, that is from the flower power, that is as gentle but strong as the wind, and is gentle.
There are saints in the city moving through the streets through sadness and shadow. A fiery chariot from the sky, an ordinary beat-up station wagon, earthbound, moving toward the fires along the picket line at Greyhound, with the homeless joining hands with strikers. Keep warm, keep watch, keep it together. Till out of the ordinary, not a miracle of doves bringing peace, but carte blanche comes love's daily bread, as light as a bird in the hand. These are the saints who used the pot that didn't melt to make the soup, to take to the heart of the city. There at Public Square in the shadow of the tower, amid the rats, the abatements, the greed, they've weathered the cold midnight air. Yes, there are saints in the city, moving through sadness and shadow, to the projects with crayons and food, looking, listening for beauty, for the art of the people, for the poetry of the soul fired up, hungering in poverty for the light of justice. How ironic, Ralph. In the plain dealer's headline, you're labeled as social workers. How often they, along with administrators, police, public officials, hold attitudes that epitomize an insensitivity toward the poor, a dehumanized spirit you sought to overcome. They also call you a friend of the poor. Every day you eat with the poor, sleep with the poor, walk and talk, breathe with the poor. You are the poor, friendly or not. Come out of your coma, Ralph. Speak to us. You know if you could, your first words would forgive your enemies and those who beat you. You'd wish to teach them to fight like Gandhi and King. Ralph, this may not be the right time. We confess, you often bore us with your constant talk about the poor, in jail, in the street, in the projects where you work, where you live. But Ralph, come back, bore us again, and this time, forgive your friends.
I've known Daniel since 1971 or 2, and he was in his, I fixed his stair last year and his roof, and I always had fine treatment from Daniel and appreciated what he did.
Desperate characters shoot their arrows straight into my heart. Seduced, I start to bleed. I cannot leave nor stand apart from another's weather. We are one together in each raindrop of pain, each cloud lining, each silver flash. Out of their emergency I emerge and sigh, till every wish, dream, and lie. Every rose I stop and smell through their broken nose. Desperate characters have my number, disturb my slumber, never let me be alone. Ring my bell, my phone, any hour voices call, draw me out, dare me to care, to yes, sail my heart again into their wild darkness.
All right, everybody shut up. We got a very special guest. This guy came fucking, damn, I lost my pick. Out of the hospital. This guy came for fucking miles to be here tonight. His name is Daniel Thompson. He's going to read some poetry for you all tonight. Give a warm welcome for Daniel Thompson and Ginger. We ask you to keep it down, please.
How soft the sidewalk on a cold spring night. How dry the spring, not a fountain for our thirst, only day-old for our appetite. Our chums the seagulls come to share a few bagel crumbs. But let us pray for the brutes who are dumb. Let us pray for the brutes who are dumb. Night is the future I drive in the middle of, under the weather of moonlight, under the charity of darkness. With God's speed I drive through the scarred wilderness, the ruder loneliness, as if I were heaven's messenger and had the divine right of way across avenues of bad news to these streets of greed. Night is the future for the fugitives of day who lay their heads down where their feet have trod and hold in rough hands this day-old daily bread in a prison without walls under stars they seldom see. Night is the future, a dream of a blind date our faith arranges between justice and love, under the weather of moonlight, under the charity of darkness. If I had wings, I'd fly after nightfall to the heart of the city, to the darkest part of poverty. There, out in the open under bright lights, those steamy places where the homeless sleep night after night. If I had wings, ribs, pizza, donuts, bagels, pastries, and simply water, I'd get it together whatever the weather. If I had wings, I'd spread them out along with these other things against the night hunger for a feast in the belly of the beast. If I had wings, this would be my latitude, longitude, altitude, and attitude. If I had wings.
When the Hessler Street Fair started in '95, was brought back in '95, of a group of us, I think he was maybe the only one who really knew how to do it, and he just shone through, and it always ended up being very positive, and he was very positive and wonderful person.
Cooled by evening simplicity, the water and I are shimmering. The lagoon beckons in the darkness to an armada of light coming by land through the trees. These annual August lanterns lit by the flames of Hiroshima are the work of children and bear in crayon their messages of peace. All gather at the water's edge. Yet after a ceremony go no further en masse, as though halted by some creature from the black lagoon. In reality it's verboten by mutant landlords, the trustees of the Museum of Art, who jealously guard their liquid assets. O Thoreau, Gandhi, King, O Dorothy Day, we need you. Your spirit of civil disobedience, to turn these lanterns into boats of freedom, to keep hope afloat. A black rain again falls on a city. The thinker, still shattered, sheds a tear.
And it's just unfortunate that there aren't about 50 million people in this world like him.
In my cock and bully days on the Beauty Beast Express, when I'd run my reckless eye, and any old phrase would do, when thick as thumbs in the green thief wind, I made the round ground spinning skin my house of joy. And the bouquets of poses I would toss to the ladies were my flowers of black sunlight cracked through the rock. In the midnight of rivers where I washed out my virtue, happy as a hobo with his dreams in a bottle, no dog-haired saint in the foxfire of God, nor spellbound bee in the dandelion's roar, lived in the love light as I. And the heart still shining, sings.
In 1992, I had an opportunity to really at least give some expression to the respect that I had for Daniel and to his prophetic ministry, that it really was prophetic. And I convinced the Board of County Commissioners to officially declare Daniel as the Poet Laureate of Cuyahoga County. And by God,
we have with us now Sam Phillips, a great rebellious young man, and Daniel Thompson, an even greater poet. Now, Sam is playing drums around the world, and Daniel's running around all the junkyards, coffee houses, and emporiums. He's been asked to castles and queens with his poetry, because he really is the poet laureate around here, and he's known as a very magical man around town. How are you, Daniel? It's great to be with you. You can talk to me if you want.
Get a voice support going.
Daniel just blew his last poem. No, Sam, you're playing on this. You're the wild man. Get in on that mic and let us hear from you.
Yeah, I'm playing drums and percussion on it, and Daniel's doing his poetry thing. And
all together, huh?
Yes,
you guys went wild, huh? Can we hear that?
Zero weather on the vagrant faces. I wake from sleep with the black of the raven, and ravenous for justice and song, and blue Appalachian turnpike dawn. Pollution is yes, and everywhere, squats on his haunches and backyard gossip, but the jackleg quickness claims its own on the wings of children, the rings of the phone, moves on the deeds of the dead before us, lets flesh and spirit be one and the same, where nothing is sure save death and dying, in the dead of night, it calls you by name. And beginnings again lead to Eden, where with pen and flourish, truth and friend, I root for anarchy in dark places, and trail my verse in the wake of the wind.
Daniel Thompson and Sam Phillips on WER. God almighty, that's a new idea, isn't it?
Is that the Birdman?
That's the Birdman.
He performed at the junkyard at Pearl Road Auto Wrecking.
Right.
You recognize Daniel, don't you, Jerry?
That was the first time I got a standing ovation. That was at the Pearl Road junkyard.
Yeah, I started this guy on his career. I'm the one that you can blame.
Pal.
Great posts out there.
How do you make all this how does this all happen? How does a Birdman get to a junkyard with a poet and a radical Sam, you're playing drums all over the world. And Daniel, what are you doing now? You were at the Euclid Tavern last night when we were at the Barking Spider, huh?
Yeah, I've been performing with the Robbers. I go up and for, I don't know, it seems like 10 years. But this was their 16th anniversary. And when the Free Clinic has their R&R, I usually go out there and perform with the Robbers.
Beautiful. You did them a real thing here. I think this thing is going to be something that the poetic world will remember.
Now, Daniel was, I don't know, it was wonderful when he used to play with the old band and with my band, and I say play, too, because it was like he was a musician, you know.
What was your band?
Robbers and Jim Miller Band.
If I had wings, I'd fly after nightfall to the heart of the city, to the darkest part of poverty. There, out in the open under bright lights, those steamy places where the homeless sleep night after night. If I had wings, ribs, pizza, donuts, bagels, pastries, and simply water, I'd get it together, whatever the weather. If I had wings, I'd spread them out along with these other things against the night hunger for a feast in the belly of the beast. If I had wings, this would be my latitude, longitude, altitude, and attitude. If I had wings. Tell Chief Wahoo, Wounded Knee, Crazy Horse, Sand Creek, Sitting Bull, Little Bighorn. Whisper in his ear the trail of tears, Tecumseh, Cochise, Joseph, Jonomic, Geronimo. Let him know when this false face, Red Sambo with its Uncle Tomahawk grin and Pinocchio lie of a nose, goes, he shall rise up on the wings of eagles, dance to the drumming and dream, not what the white man deems important, the pennant race at Fort Jacobs, the human race, the wilderness of his own imagination, his original face.
I'm Barbara Klonowski.
And you were Daniel Thompson's friend for
For how many years?
26 years.
What impressed me with Daniel out of the most thing about his life was his commitment to the human race to try to make it a better world. Can you comment on that?
Well, I think Daniel's training to be a minister is probably one of the most important aspects of his personality. Even though he didn't become a minister, he was sort of, I mean, he was a minister. he was a minister without pay.
I met Seraphine Ngugi, who is from Kenya, at my Moroccan friend's house, Fatia, and that's when I first learned that. How you doing, Daniel? Can I butt in? Sure. I'm sorry, man. They're doing this for a TV show. Oh. Was it 2020? No, it's Democracy TV. We're going to do it. Anyway, I met Seraphine at a dinner, actually, at my friend's house. And that's when I first found out that she has this village, a school in a village, and that she wanted to get a cow so they'd have fresh milk every day. So I told her, and I think this was about a year ago, that I would try to get it for her. So I've been thinking about it, and I've been asking people, like the person that just butt in. He's a musician. I met him at another party, and I told him about it. He said he'd be, when it happens, let him know. And I'm with my group, the group that I'm with, drum play. And so we had those groups, and then I talked to some poets to come, and then I ran into River Smith, whose son Alexander. I knew them, and they had the urban community school, which has a confirmation project and she thought this would be a good confirmation project. So I said, well, so I gave it over to them, and this coffee house here at St. Paul's Community Church, once a month, I believe they have something. I've performed here before for benefits. So, but the school actually, their project is the Heifer Project, and where you give money, and they have their own agenda where they have places where they give cows or sheep or different other things in the world. So actually it's become like two projects. This one, some of the money is going to go to the Heifer Project for the school, and some of the money is going to go to Seraphine for the cow for her village in Africa. And drum play is, they have their CDs here. So anybody that buys a CD from drum play will get some money back. I mean, the Seraphine will get the money from that, I meant to say. And I'm giving my book to anyone that gives something to Seraphine. I'll give them my free book, Double X, which is the companion book to the CD, They Shine the Stars in. So, and other people have given me, like the Bop Stop, they gave me a check, and some other friends of mine promised that they'll give me checks next week. So, and other people have promised that they'll make sure that I believe she's going home in July, that she'll have the $500 she needs to get a cow by July. So I hope so. If not, we'll have to have another benefit. Anyway, but I know a lot of people who have more money than I have, and sometimes they give it to me. I'll make sure. We're all going to try to make sure that she gets it. Especially Marie Smith also has pledged that also. So that's the story. The only thing I regret is that the one poem in which I had a cow in, I forgot to bring tonight. I should have brought that so I could read it. So, but nobody's perfect.
I know when you came in, you gave some money to the Heifer Project for the school children here. But if you give some more money to a few dollars more to Seraphine so she can get her cow when she goes back in July. Yeah. Anyone that gives her a few dollars, I'll give this in my latest book free, double X. So I just want to see the pot. Also, our band, James Disco and Drum Play, they're going to kick back $5 on every CD that you buy tonight from them. Thank you.
Hello, I'm James Anisco with my bandmate,
Warren Alert.
And we're members of Drum Play. We performed with Daniel Thompson countless times. He was a member of Drum Play, and we miss him. And we're here today to speak a few words about our fallen poet warrior, Daniel Thompson.
Agility, rails against stars, feather and tree, through the needle's eye, eyes that pitch of 40 elusive wings, in the alphabet of night, your eyes shine forth insomnia. The dreamless ego, like a shell-shocked snail, drags about its own private hell. The smell and then the taste of rain. If only things would happen again. Again, lightning strikes, a leaf falls, the grief-stricken tree splits apart, resembling the schizoid poet, who also barks when pissed on, as now, starved bird. Good enough for fiery verse.
Well, just Daniel was the man that we all wish we could be. We had the strength to be. A man who did not live for himself, but wholly lived for others. And that started 40 years ago. I know he was a freedom rider, and he never stopped writing for freedom.
Train, you driven your golden spike into the dark night of my soul. Train, you carry my death in the smoky breath of your city. Train, you're the iron horse, the ironic force that sped up the nightmare of history, our genocidal mystery. Train, you'll be a great day for the suave, depressed hobo poet, riding the rods to find your carrying peace, train. But I should be watching closely, train. This is now a new freedom train. The new Swingo, Sweet Harriet Tubman train. No high noon killers on this train. No definite German camp counselors on this train. There's no bourgeois train. This is the Woody Guthrie bound for glory train. This is the Lead Belly train, the A train, the A Philip Randolph movement border train, the John Cole train, the A.R. movement surrender 2 train, the Dead Day of Morning Peace train.
Daniel set the standard not only for poetry and art and integrity, but for courage. And that's why we're all here, I think, because he was like a spiritual center for us, no matter where we were. So we'll have to find another spiritual center unless it continues to be Daniel. But Daniel was amazing for everyone around him.
Okay, can I ask you a question? Is that original junk stock t-shirt?
We were there.
Yes, I remember.
Falling asleep with Barbara in her forest room, her treehouse among the stars, this angel with the open mouth, her poems under the tongue, stored there, ready to be used as needed. The cool jazz sound of the oxygen machine, a slow ride of the cymbal, I assume assuaging her pain. I'm there in a half dream, in a sad chair, drowsy after work, having just signed as the witness her will. I have my wits about me, she said. I know I'm one of them, I added. Sharing the laughter, and now this drifting in and out, sleepers awakening, startled into dialogue. It's as if we're floating on a stream of language, past pains, flotsam and jetsam, our bodies submerged, only the shadow of our voices revealed. To paint, to write, she muses, the interplay. I define my art by this window before me, an exit of light. Barbara sails away, breathless, over her abundance of trees, real on canvas, her fox's song, hungry owl, groping mole and amber cat, all her night music, rain in April, the call of names, into the honeyed air of eternity.
I met Daniel Thompson through my wife, Zena Sapora. He came out here at the junkyard one day looking for some parts, and I was in the backyard near the Volkswagens, and we had a little campfire going at that time back there. And he looked around and he says, "This would be a great place to have a poetry party."
And all come together to form Junk Stock. Yes, this is a takeoff on Woodstock, and it's going on for the next 30 hours non-stop. You've probably heard us tell you before about the Junkyard Poets. Well, this is the same group that's putting on Junk Stock. The Pearl Road Auto Parts is the location for the event, which features some 40 bands and other performers. These people are obviously easing their hunger as they get set for the poetry readings, which begin later this evening.
Dance to the drumming and dream, not what the white man deems important, the pitted race in Fort Jacobs, but the human race, the wilderness of his own imagination, his original face. Under the bridge where you take me, the cricket follows. I move toward you, the light follows as if it were my shadow. I reach you, your head's in the clouds, you're barefooted, there are sharp rocks. Before us love's grave lies, smoke and humor. We've enough rope now to choke. Let's dance!
Ralph Delaney was a nonviolent activist, an anti-poverty activist, a community arts organizer who dedicated his whole life, like Daniel, to the pursuit of justice. Well, he was attacked, and while in a coma, Daniel wrote his poem. While Ralph was in a coma, Daniel wrote his poem, "Saints in the City," and Ralph unfortunately passed as a result of that attack.
This is for Ralph Delaney. There are saints in the city moving through the streets through sadness and shadow. No fiery chariot from the sky, only an ordinary beat-up station wagon, earthbound, moving toward the fires along the picket line at Greyhound, where the homeless joining hands with strikers keep warm, keep watch, keep it together. Till out of the ordinary, not a miracle of doves bring peace, but carte blanche comes love's daily bread, as light as a bird in the hand. These are the saints who used the pot that didn't melt to make the soup, to take to the heart of the city, there at Public Square in the shadow of the tower, amid the rats, the abatements, the greed, they weather the cold midnight air. Yes, there are saints in the city, moving through sadness and shadow, through the projects with crayons and food, looking, listening for beauty, for the art of the people, for the poetry of the soul fired up, hungering in poverty for the light of justice. How ironic, Ralph. In the Plain Dealer's headline, you're labeled a social worker. How often they, along with administrators, police, public officials, hold attitudes that epitomize an insensitivity toward the poor, that dehumanized spirit you sought to overcome. They also call you a friend of the poor. But if every day you eat with the poor, sleep with the poor, walk and talk, breathe with the poor, you are the poor, friendly or not. Come out of your coma, Ralph. Speak to us. We know if you could, your first words will forgive your enemies and those who beat you. You'd wish to teach them to fight like Gandhi and King. Ralph, this may not be the right time, but we confess you often bore us with your constant talk about the poor in jail, on the street, in the projects where you work, where you live. But Ralph, come back, bore us again, and this time, forgive your friends.
Daniel's been involved in poetry here in Cleveland for a long time. I mean, way before we opened the bookstore here in Coventry. He probably, I mean, he used to love to plan readings all over town, and he would do all kinds of different things. Probably best known for Junk Stock, which was a combination of art, music, and poetry, and it was at the Pearl Road Auto Wrecking. It ran for, I think, 10 years, and at first it was like a 24-hour thing, and in the last couple years it was noon to midnight, and there was a stage. It was like a flatbed truck, and that's where the musicians and the poets would perform. And then inside Pearl Road Auto Wrecking, there would be art installations set up, and also outside in the junkyard. And so it was just great to be able to go there, and it was kind of like a poetry art picnic. It was great to be able to spend the day there, and Daniel was the driving force behind that.
Does Barbara's Rough Rider, our road warrior, Hieronymus Bosch, when not dwelling on his version of the New World Order, share our deja vu vision of hell, the long nightmare of a quicksand trap as he plays God and his god-awful game of golf on the Persian rug in his Oval Office, sending his Nintendo Luftwaffe, his desert stormtroopers over there to raise sand, to rock the cradle of civilization, to bomb the Garden of Eden. He's taken his fellow American hostage in this new Babylonian captivity, but is he really so damn mad at Saddam for giving him the chance to kick ass in the mother of all battles? I bet he shakes up the sheikhs. Aren't they wondering in their secret hearts whether he'll make a desert out of their desert? Blow away every oasis, smoke every camel. Will the Euphrates flow through Hades? Oh, Tigris, Tigris, burning bright in the rocket's red glare, in the Orwellian night, bombs bursting in air. Look, stars over the desert. Listen, wish I may, Bush is praying, wish I might. Body Baghdad Hussein tonight. Prove our improved might is right. Or will it only prove our Hitler is bigger and better than their Hitler? We hit with high-tech, high-five precision. We're not just bombing Iraq, we're bombing hard places, bad people, the inner cities of America, our minorities, our homeless, our victims of the plague, AIDS, the future of our children, abandoned, unschooled. What are their options? Join up and die, or eat dope and die. Where is hope? Hope's over there entertaining the troops again. And again, war is hell, even when sanitized by the military. War is censorship, war is prison for dissenters, war is Abraham cutting Isaac's throat, the ram scrammed, the goat never showed. Call me Ishmael, Melville wrote. Is America Moby Dick, the global swing of the nightstick, the unholy 9 yards, and the rose that's sick? Mother, forgive us. Father, forgive us. Sister, forgive us. Brother, forgive us. Husband, forgive us. Wife, forgive us. Daughter, forgive us. Son, forgive us. Earth, forgive us. Air, forgive us. Fire, forgive us. Water, forgive us, and wash our hearts clean. Let us grieve and love and begin again.
I knew Daniel Thompson back from my days at Cleveland State University in the late 60s. He was someone who had a sense of joy and also a sense of purpose in his writing. He really did Cleveland proud as a poet who started here but became known nationally. Daniel Thompson is someone who deserves to be read now for not only the relevancy of his poetry as it related to the 60s and 70s, but also for the kind of vision that he had that shows us the potential of a writer who is a truth teller, someone who would not hesitate to focus on subjects that perhaps others wouldn't want to. Daniel was someone who I knew and loved, and I'm glad that he's still being celebrated and will continue to be for many years to come.
And take it to shelters and different places. But then a few things happened to me. And I don't do it as much as I don't do it hardly at all now. Once in a while people bring stuff over or tell me they have something, and I'll do it. But I don't do it in a regular routine way anymore. Because I guess I've changed a little from... one thing, I don't have a vehicle. I gave my truck to the person in whose house I live, because we had a junker car, and so I don't have a vehicle. I happen to have a vehicle now that isn't really mine. It's somebody that I counseled over the years, a drug addict and shoplifter. He's in prison now, and through my years of counseling, I think I've known him for 30 years. Through my skills as a counselor, now he moved himself up. He's a pimp now. His escort girls dropped the car off at my house when he went into prison.
So I happen to have that now, but it's only good till the end of the year. And I'm gonna have to, unless we're trying to get him out on an appeals bond. I hope otherwise the car's gonna be parked in the backyard. I think his insurance runs out or something. If he doesn't get out, I'm gonna have to park his car somewhere.
His words lend balance to silence. The sky is red with warning. Into the room's dark gestures, the skin invites itself again. Into the broken light, the reckless eye zeroes in, moving toward the window open to the moon. Its errant beauty caught in the tree's calligraphy. This tree where the hanged man, our Savior, lives. Oh, bitter words uprooted from the heart's sweet tongue, carried by the wind's teeth, biting through the stars, to beyond the sky, the ear of God. I was such a fanatic once. You still are, her voice breaks in. The mirror cracks, blood springs from the hands and feet. You still are, she says, wrapping my trembling life like a homeless street person in the blanket of her phrase. A fanatic of the moment. The government treats white people like Native Americans, steals their land.
Change logo. It's time for a change. Put being such an ignorant and racist city on the lake.
Tell Chief Wahoo, Wounded Knee, Crazy Horse, Sand Creek, Sitting Bull, Little Bighorn. Whisper in his ear the Trail of Tears, Tecumseh, Goat Cheese, Joseph, Jonomic, Geronimo. Let him know when this false face, Red Sambo, with his Uncle Tomahawk grin and Pinocchio lie of a nose, goes, he shall rise up on the wings of eagles, dance to the drumming and dream, not what the white man deems important, the pennant race at Fort Jacob, the human race, the wilderness of his own imagination, his original face.
Hi, this is Sam Phillips reporting about Bogus Blight in Lakewood. Sir, what do you think about Bogus Blight?
Bogus Blight, what group is that? Was he is he a rapper or what?
Well, you know, there's been a lot of blighted things going on lately since the election of George W. Bush.
They're trying to it's hip hop. He's a hip hop. They're trying to hip hop over people's rights, aren't they?
Yes. What was your statement about the Native Americans losing their land? What is the connection between the blighted situation now and the Native Americans losing their land?
See, I think they should use eminent domain to take all the land back and give it to the Native Americans, the indigenous people. Now that's a good use of eminent domain, but what they're doing here is just robbery.
When my mother sunbathed on the roof, planes would sometimes buzz the house. On an afternoon at home after her operation, she was proud vacuuming the rug, naked of her lone breast and her scar. Out of her mind in a time of violence, oh, forgive me, Mother, my brutality, she ran from the trailer out of the camp without a stitch on, in time to wrestle home the angel of death. A tree or a whole forest may have fallen the night no human woke to hear her dying breath. After that, my life in pain, wounded, aggrieved, deja vu'd by love again, a breakup leading to a breakdown, to my endless manic panic pacing in the empty apartment. Suddenly, I found my mother in the dark cave of sorrow and spoke to her, naked heart to naked heart.
Danny Thompson, we lost a great worker for the people. I mean, he cared so much about human beings, and he cared so much, and he spent his entire life really giving everything he had to, you know, ending poverty and you know, fighting against the oppression that he saw every day. And he really didn't deny any of that stuff. You know, he saw the world for what it was. And
have you always been involved in a progressive movement to try to change the world, to try to make it a better place?
Well, I had Progressive Life Insurance a few years ago, but they wouldn't fund one of my art things for the Centennial, my art project, so I left. I dropped my Progressive Insurance.
Well, that's funny. I used to have Progressive Suit, too. Word serendipity stuff going on here. You know,
have I always been progressive? I don't know. You know, my mother was taught me a lot of things. My parents, my father, you know. She was a radical, and when she was a Rosie the Riveter, she got fired for sabotage, and they got her job back and her pay, and so that was in my family, working class radicalism.
I think the first time I met you, I don't know, I believe it was in the jail cell at the Kent State in 1977 when they were building the gym where the students were shot at.
I was in the move the gym, and I was one of the people that refused to deal. I got a poem about that too, the last tattoo, where I just told the judge they were trying to plead no contest, and I refused, and I said the dead are my defense, their silence, and we went to jail. There was about I think there was 4 of us. There was 2 other poets, and I heard there was a woman that went to jail. But all the poets had it was a good experience for them, and I think everyone should go to jail at least twice a year. At the same time, get their see their dentist, get their teeth.
Yeah, well, it was a good experience for me too. It was like going to college.
Yeah. It's your street college. You go to jail as part of your education.
It behooves everyone in the music, arts, and entertainment community to think about what we can do individually and collectively to carry on his work. I've never been one to copy ideas or be a copycat, but I think this is time to make a big exception so that we can all follow Daniel's example and make sure that his good works are continued. Clarity is the path to inner peace. My life is changing and taking a better turn, and we must all defeat the Nazi military dictatorship of the Bush criminal terrorists. For Daniel.
Abandoned by women, far from the heart under duress, in the deaf deja vu moonlight. After the birth cries, the children spirited away into the thin air of strangers and painted blue skies, the caverns of luminous handmade stars. And they want me to return to the road, the theater of the world, for the movement to make heaven and earth. Naked, imprisoned as if in a mirror, hungry, wanting to break through, the dream wounded, he bled into the headlines in the evening news. Burning crossroads, broken banjo in the dust, our bodies sit, voices sing, we shall not, till redneck bully clubs swing, flesh yields, and loose blood flows, head rocks and rolls, stars appear, stars and bars, the long wrong arm of the law, Jim Crow officers, awful Caucasian rage, bird in a cage. Some of us wanted to know if you were human. Well, hell on things, takes one to tell one. Hell is everywhere. Up north, the air fills, chills with swastikas and flying bricks. Nightsticks, that dark forest, moving like a river of pain, like a trial of Job, like a biblical plague, over the drum skin of the ghetto, over the fires on the plain. Now keep a sick white crowd at bay. Don't ask who they are wearing these savage masks. This average is savage. Beaten back, driven from the edge of the crowd. They come back again, vulgar, loud, resilient as rope, full of hope as a lynch mob. And still the nightsticks do their job, keep us marchers on the move through the hostile neighborhood. A lot of frustration, and I imagine to their sorrow, those desperately against us realize they must borrow a page from our demonstrations, cool their rage, move ahead together, and sit peacefully in the street. Oh, sweet Jesus. What a red-letter moment of history, a moral victory, an epiphany. In a crisis, our enemies act just like us, using our own nonviolent tactic to stop us in our tracks. And how do we respond to this rendezvous with irony, to this gift of nonviolence from those who hate us? We wait in silence, as if struck dumb. Even our preacher, Bruce, whose words rang out against the first stone cast, now holds his tongue. No talk of dialogue, no reconciliation, no mention of redemption of the nation. Only sound nightsticks and flesh and bone. And stumbling, shouts, crying out, trying to run in panic and pain. Dear enemy, dark with blood, your faces are in broken mirror. The way is clear. The dogs bark, and the movement moves on.
Well, I guess there's 2 things that I always think of when I think of Daniel. One of them is just how uncompromising he was, like whatever it was, whether it was the struggle for the homeless or whether it was like against the war in Iraq, he was always there, he was always uncompromising, he was always willing to do whatever it took to stop the injustice, and that was always really inspiring to me.
Night is a future I drive in the middle of, under the weather of moonlight, under the charity of darkness, with Godspeed I drive through the scarred wilderness, the root of a loneliness,
as if I were heaven's messenger, handed the divine right of way across avenues of bad news to these streets of greed. Night is the future for the fugitives of day who lay their heads down where their feet have trod and hold in rough hands this day-old daily bread in a prison without walls, under stars they seldom see. Night is the future, a dream of a blind date our faith arranges between justice and love, under the weather of moonlight, under the charity of darkness.
Hi, my name is Marty Gelfand, and I've known Daniel since I was about 8 or 9 years old. And Daniel was just a great guy. He was a funny person. Always, you know, when I spoke to him, I always found some humor and some laughter in things he said, although oftentimes he spoke about things that weren't so humorous or laughable. He was very much involved in the plight of street people and homeless people and hungry people, and he did a lot to help. And oftentimes when I saw him, he was out distributing food or water, and his I just loved reading his poetry when I had the chance. But Danny was a good friend, a personal friend, and a friend of the community, and a friend of people most in need.
What is your new projects right now? What's happening now? You heard that you're playing with this group called Drum Play, you know, these bunch of wild drummers.
Well, we perform, and we do some benefits, and we do some paying gigs, and I read my poetry with these drummers, and we've gone a couple trips to Europe, which was you know, made very, you know, they became almost like political because of we were the only American band invited to this international music festival, and we got a lot of publicity out of that.
Well, can I ask you a question? Do you think a lot of people are going to become political because it's in style now, you know, or might become in style? You know, they'll go whatever the way the wind blows.
Well, the wind blows different ways, so you got to, you know, you don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind's blowing. But you got to get out there, yeah. Well, yeah, that always happens. I mean, that's part of life. You know, people you know, follow trends, but also there's always you know, people that try to think with others for themselves, and will, you know, won't just take what the government hands out, you know, right. And that's happening right now. And I think, you know, it's going to happen now, and I think people like Bush and those empire builders are going to be out in the cold soon, I hope.
Daniel was also working on helping folks who were stuck in jail for lack of being able to come up with $25 or $50 in bail bond money. Daniel was putting together a bail bond fund, and he, in his usual way, recruited Father Bobby Ginn and myself in that effort, especially to raise money. And we had a bail bond ball to raise money. And that particular effort led to what became quite an event, at least on the near west side, the famous bail bond ball raid, in which the father, the good father, and I became infamous and wound up leading gospel hymns in the 2nd Precinct jail. So I really wanted to, you know, thank Daniel for that.
Knife to the bone of the naked heart. The wind's a river for the forest of women standing by the water, their hair glorious in the air. Diamond stars, pools of light, leaf fall, electric hum, the weight of the world stacked bound, waiting for newspaper shoulders, the approaching headlights, wet grass, tree lawn, snake branch. The way curves, the hand caressing the moment, silence like a sky, the streets paved with the gold of autumn, fallen heaven's alchemy. Cat crawl, insect bite, skunk smell. The dense presence of houses where your friends no longer living, or your friends no longer dying. You pass by, step over the sidewalk's web. The floating room coughs in the dark, the deaf child sleeping. Only in your ear the cricket song. Homeward the shadows move, your dog shadowing you, The shadow of death remembered. Again the words come, repeat the crime, the cry, ubiquity of love. Rainwater in a bowl, silver tears on a golden leaf.
The strange situation once of having to fire him from a job, which he was quite amused by later, because he brought that up at a speech that I need an introduction to, and he came out and introduced me and talked about a community organizing job where he was a little bit desirous of introducing poetry into the neighborhood more than the neighbors were interested in having it. So the board decided that he had to look for work elsewhere.
Hello, I'm Brian Davis, Director of the Northeast Ohio Coalition for the Homeless.
And I'm Stacy Santa. Welcome to Focus on Poverty.
On today's program, we take a look at the Homeless Stand-Down, recently held at the Cuyahoga County Community College. Over 50 agencies and private businesses joined together to provide comprehensive services to over 500 homeless men, women, and children. The Poet Laureate of Cuyahoga County, Daniel Thompson, a longtime activist and advocate for hunger relief, joins us to read some of his work.
All that and more, but first, this.
Hi, I'm Marcia. I'm good friends of Daniel. He was always my love. I always cared about him for what he did for people. I'm selling his paper saying, "Blessed are the homeless," and he did bless the homeless with his goodness to all the homeless people, giving food, bringing bread, bringing some love to all the people that really needed it. Daniel was always a good man, and he's going to be missed.
Daniel Thompson is a poet that is famous in the neighborhood and has been officially named as a Poet Laureate of Cuyahoga County. He has worked to eradicate hunger his entire life, especially in his own. Joining him today is percussionist Sam Phillips. And now, Daniel Thompson.
How soft the sidewalk on a cold spring night. How dry the spring, not a fountain for our thirst, only day-old for our appetite. Our chums the seagulls come to share a few bagel crumbs. Oh, let us pray for the brutes who are dumb. Let us pray for the brutes who are dumb. Night is the future I drive in the middle of, under the weather of moonlight, under the charity of darkness. With God's speed I drive through the scarred wilderness, the ruderal loneliness, as if I were heaven's messenger and had the divine right of way across avenues of bad news to these streets of greed. Night is the future for the fugitives of day who lay their heads down where their feet have trod and hold in rough hands this day-old daily bread in a prison without walls under stars they seldom see. Night is the future, a dream of a blind date our faith arranges between justice and love, under the weather of moonlight, under the charity of darkness. Those in power always want those in poverty to live on poetry. The best things in life are free, they're fond of saying. Of course, if you help yourself to what's second best, they lock you up. And if you tell them all you wanted was just a little bit more on your plate, they'll hit you with "Man shall not live by bread alone." They certainly don't. They've got the bread and the gravy, the meat and potatoes, the Army, the Air Force, the Marines, and the Navy. And what have we got? Our loneliness and our need to break bread. For that sound breaks the silence between us, and out of that broken silence tumbles everything, a cornucopia of words that feed the heart, night words that rise and fall with each breath, each shadow, words as light, whose wings brush against us, and we are never the same. Words that are famous with only 4 letters, like food, love, home, sing. Ohio, I'm following you down the road. I'm tailgating you. I'm so close I can read your license plate. It says you're the heart of it all. But it seems your heart has turned arctic cold with 6 months of darkness, 6 months of light. Who can make it through when a half year of days is one long, cold, black night? Who can survive to praise the light? All is gray now. The sky is filled with waves of gulls, the airways with violence. Into the flats we go, down to the river. They'll throw your heart into its fire, Ohio. let it melt. I'll be your tug and pull you to the sea. There are saints in the city moving through the streets, through sadness and shadow. No fiery chariot from the sky, only an ordinary beat-up station wagon, earthbound, moving toward the fires along the picket line at Greyhound, or the homeless joining hands with strikers. Keep warm, keep watch, keep it together, till out of the ordinary, not a miracle of doves bringing peace, but carte blanche comes love's daily bread, as light as a bird in the hand. These are the saints who use the pot that didn't melt to make the soup, to take to the heart of the city. There at Public Square in the shadow of the tower, amid the rats, the abatements, the greed, they weather the cold midnight air. Yes, there are saints in the city, moving through sadness and shadow, through the projects with crayons and food, looking, listening for beauty, for the art of the people, for the poetry of the soul, fired up, hungering in poverty, for the light of justice. How ironic, Ralph. In the plain dealer's headline, you're labeled a social worker. How often they, along with administrators, police, public officials, hold attitudes that epitomize an insensitivity toward the poor, that dehumanized spirit you sought to overcome. They also call you a friend of the poor. But if every day you eat with the poor, sleep with the poor, walk and talk, breathe with the poor, you are the poor, friendly or not. Come out of your coma, Ralph. Speak to us. We know if you could, your first words would forgive your enemies and those who beat you. You'd wish to teach them to fight like Gandhi and King. Ralph, this may not be the right time, but we confess you often bore us with your constant talk about the poor in jail, on the street, in the projects where you work, where you live. But Ralph, come back. Bore us again. And this time, forgive your friends.
This is in the gym. We were set up, in the garage, I'm sorry. We were set up in the garage again because of the weather. We had 2 stages set up. This is Daniel Thompson in the background. We provided the lunch and an area for them to just relax and sort of get their thoughts together and decide what service they actually wanted to take advantage of during that course of the day.
Train, you've driven your golden spike into the dark night of my soul. Train, you carry my death in the smoky breath of your cities. Train, you're the iron horse, the ironic force that sped up the nightmare of history, our genocidal mystery. Train, it will be a great day when this wobbly, depressed hobo poet riding the rods finds you're carrying peace. Train, mine eyes have been watching you closely. Train, this is now a new freedom train, the new swing low, sweet Harriet Tubman train. No high noon killers on this train. No death and internment camp counselors on this train. This is no bourgeois train. This is a Woody Guthrie bound for glory train. This is the Leadbelly train, the A train, the A. Philip Randolph Pullman Porter train, the John Colt train, the Ain't I a Woman Sojourner Truth train, the Great Day in the Morning Peace train, train, train.
I love Daniel dearly, and Daniel, thanks for being the best P.O. I ever had.
Famous in the basement, my life in boxes. I lie listening to the stars, those light years of silence, and from the white machinery, the rhythms of the sea. In this mildewed milieu, love keeps a low profile, a sexual zero on a futon dreamboat, till heels overhead, the piano bares its teeth, and toots sweet, the avant-garde dog, her soft underbelly. I try to rise, but gangplank panic, the heart keel-hold, the sundry arts jettisons. I lose my toehold on the cold linoleum. It's man overboard in the doldrums of moonlight as the dog makes her rounds to lick my wounds.
The other night I read at a shaker, and the guy that, I was a substitute actually, somebody got sick. So he said, you should, every time we read about 3 times, and he'd call me on the hallway. Now you could, that check's gonna bounce unless you get out there and tell some stories and give a context to those poems. So I tell a few stories, but I just like to read my poetry personally. Yeah, what do you want? You want, but these people want. They need a context, and I said, death is my context, But anyway, I don't think you understood most of those poems, didn't you? They weren't that.
Dan made a little difference in this world, and that's more than most of us can do.
Those in power always want those in poverty to live on poetry. The best things in life are free, they're fond of saying. Of course, if you help yourself to what's second best, they lock you up. If you tell them all you wanted was just a little bit more on your plate, they'll hit you with, man shall not live by bread alone. They certainly don't.
They've got the bread and the gravy, the meat and potatoes, the Army, the Air Force, the Marines, and the Navy. And what have we got? Our loneliness and our need to break bread. But that sound breaks the silence between us. And out of that broken silence tumbles everything, a cornucopia of words that feed the heart. Night words that rise and fall with each breath, each shadow. Words as light as light, whose wings brush against us, and we are never the same. Words that are famous with only 4 letters, like food, love, home, sin.
In the wild west night of the city, when the hot meet the cool, all she may ask is simply, do you love or not? Take your best shot. As for me, I've been recreated running the streets. I wear a gold tooth now. I go from bar to bar. I know the touch of the hustler beyond the touch, for she takes me under her wing, and we sail through the fog of money. We play the hearts of the city by ear. I like best the inviting variety of lights. Its promise of happenings always removes the material weight of society from me. I move through beauty and through terror along the neon wall of night, a rag man coming home to light. Once I was singular in my disturbance. Now, good brothers, in my head are dreams that cut like a knife. We need each other. Take care. It's in the air.
I feel like tonight there could be more said about his militancy and his dedication to the people around the world and here in this country, and his determination to stand up against the war moves that continue and all the crimes. He stood with all the revolutionaries and all the radicals and all the anarchists and all the rebels, but most of all, he really, he reached out to everyone who wanted to change the world.
At this time, we will have some more fine poetry from Mr. Daniel Thompson, our own poet laureate.
Thank you.
In the spring of '96, when they had the Great Day peace train came across the country, Ione had asked me to write a poem about it, to greet the delegate when they came on the Greyhound. And she saw me at the Hester Street Fair. I had completely forgotten about it. And it was that following Wednesday. So I locked myself up in the house for a few days and thought about all the references to trains that I knew. And I was still writing the poem that Wednesday when we greeted the delegate down at the Greyhound station. And I suddenly looked at my poem and I realized, this is for the Women Speak Out, for the International League of Women. And there wasn't one woman in the poem. Because trains, don't usually associate women. So, but I happened to see Greg from Akron, and I remembered I'd been in Seneca Falls, I think it was, and read about Sojourner Truth had made her famous Ain't I a Woman speech in Akron, so I quick put her in the poem. And I was thinking of Harriet Tubman, but I didn't know how to work her in the poem at the time. But now, when I go to events, I can always, when women are involved, I can always put a woman in the caboose of the poem and change it every time. So this is, so anyway, that day, Ione actually fainted on the sidewalk. And I ran in and had to get a chair out of the executive office of the Greyhound, just walked in, picked it up, put it on the sidewalk. And then later when she left, she was in a car leaving, and everyone said, now don't change that poem. That was good. But Ione said, you forgot the A train. So I had to put that into it. All right. So she not only commissioned the poem, but she also helped me write it. Train, you've driven your golden spike into the dark night of my soul. Train, you carry my death in the smoky breath of your cities. Train, you're the iron horse, the ironic force that sped up the nightmare of history, our genocidal mystery. Train, it will be a great day when this wobbly, depressed hobo poet riding the rods finds you're carrying peace. Train, mine eyes have been watching closely. Train, this is now a new freedom. Train, new swing low, sweet Harriet Tubman. Train, no high noon killers on this train.
No death internment camp counselor on this train. There's no bourgeois train. This is the Woody Guthrie bound for glory train. This is the Leadbelly train, the A train, the A. Philip Randolph Pullman Porter train, the John Colt train, the Ain't I a Woman Sojourner Truth train. The great day in the morning, I own Biggs, women speak out for peace and justice. Train, train, train.
What kind of legacy do you think Daniel left, in his life?
Well, that's hard to answer. I think probably Daniel is the Cleveland poet par excellence, that he somehow encapsulated Cleveland, the essence of Cleveland. So that's part of his legacy as Daniel the poet, but he touched many lives beyond the poetry world.
Daniel, how are you doing, bro? And so what's up and why are you here tonight for?
I got licorice in my mouth.
Licorice. See how these poets are, man? They ain't faithful to nothing.
West Side Market. I was invited here to read with the photography show of, it's mainly of urban people, mainly homeless people. So I read mainly my homeless poems and other urban poems. So that's why I was invited to read. This is not the opening, but this was the day after the opening for the hardcore to come back and listen.
So how long have you been doing this poetry thing, How many years?
Doing this poetry thing?
Yeah, writing poetry and all that.
Well, I think I started writing in the first grade, and I think I had my first poetry reading I put together at Le Cave in '62, but I started mainly in my early 30s, the poems I read tonight, and and I'm 68 now.
Belle Pruitt met me, she said. You've got the picture of Jesus in your face. But Jesus, the pictures I had in my head, the hoses, the dogs, moments of fire and grace. It happened once in Bethlehem, happened again in Birmingham. The innocent children dead. Sometimes a name hurts worse than a stone. Sometimes a bone breaks like a stick. Sometimes what happens alone. Suddenly life is cut to the quick. Oh, Willie Belle Pruitt, who buries your dead? Eyes untutored, hands unschooled, sleeping on the floor of your sister's shack. You rise from the shadows, past the lilies of the field, in the black night of sorrow, the sparrow on the wing, to go to mass meetings, to march in the streets, to sing. I beat you, I cry out, I bleed, for I'm bound to you just like a tree planted by the water. We shall not be moved. Your pain is my name too.
I met Daniel in 1985. I was about 18, a snot-nosed, arrogant brat, and he showed me how to get a GED and got me a job at the House of Fat Choi.
So I chose my poems tonight based on the photos. I know a couple years ago, Northeast Coalition for the Homeless put out a calendar, and they used my poems for each month. That was nice, with photographs from various artists, photographers. I don't know how many were involved. There are quite a few, though. And but all the poems, 12 of my poems. That was nice. So this reminds me of that situation. I don't know if any of my poems match any of these pictures, but
Again the dead of winter, whispering in tongues, the song of grief on the chill air. These bare black stick-figured trees, their wild gestures of prayer, stark against the pink of heaven. The day you died, I was in California in the Bay Area, walking about North Beach, wondering whether I was still on the path that led me here as a young man. I flew home, arriving in time to answer the phone, to learn you were breathless, that the breath had left your body, was in the treetops waiting like a bird for the light, for the first green leaf of spring, to be transformed once more and return as life in the lungs, in the blood, in the deep heart's core. Perhaps I myself might breathe you in and sing. Steve, you know it was on James Dean's birthday you died, and I imagine you two tooling around the city together, down these gritty industrial streets, through neighborhoods of hard lives. of ancient grandmothers, their soft voices still sounding young in kitchens of hot coffee, fresh bread, good soup. I can see you both cool in your shades, trailing cigar smoke, joking, swapping stories of Indiana and Tennessee, going into Mitzi's. You introduce Jimmy, order a white Russian, head for the green felt to rack 'em up, to break another heart. Dean calls you back, needs change for the jukebox, presses J8, UL2. You've each picked Stardust, it's on there twice. At that, you both laugh. Glance out the window, utter something I can't quite catch. Grab Jimmy, someone unlocks the door. You step out, look up in the sky. Suddenly, all the human sorrow you felt is remembered and forgiven in a Cleveland second in the beautiful falling snow.
But Daniel did something that a few people try to do, a few of us try to do, which is to really bridge, to really be an artist whose art was part of the struggle.
Those in power always want those in poverty to live on poetry. The best things in life are free, they're fond of saying. Of course, if you help yourself to what's second best, they lock you up. And if you tell them all you wanted was just a little bit more on your plate, they'll hit you with, man shall not live by bread alone. They certainly don't. They've got the bread and the gravy, the meat and potatoes, the Army, the Air Force, the Marines, and the Navy. And what have we got? Our loneliness and our need to break bread. For that sound breaks the silence between us. And out of that broken silence tumbles everything, a cornucopia of words to feed the heart. Night words that rise and fall with each breath, each shadow. Words as light, whose wings brush against us. And we are never the same. Words that are famous with only 4 letters, like food, love, home, sing.
In my cock and bully days on the Beauty Beast Express, when I'd run my reckless eye and any old phrase would do, and thick as thumbs in the green thief wind, I made the round spinning skin my house of joy, and the bouquets of poses I would toss to the ladies were my flowers of black sunlight cracked through the rock. In the midnight of rivers where I washed out my virtue, happy as a hobo with his dreams in a bottle. No dog-eared saint in the foxfire of God, or spell dandelion's roar. This quiet night in the murdering ant, an army on the sidewalk moves, carrying its starlit prey across the chalk children's game. This wax moon night the rabbit runs, his white tail bobbing as he weaves through backyards to the black, black trees. Suddenly a voice, cat or child, troubles the silence. Down these streets where sleeping dogmas lie, blow the flickering lamplight moth shadow boxes with the wind as my friend the talker talks, widening the hole in his shoe till all his words arrive on time, bloodshot in the gun sight of dawn. That quiet night, the dark cargo of my heart pitched on the green gray wave and broke.
He's a very gentle poet, very creative. Gonna miss him.
But so I don't go around picking up for the homeless anymore. Plus, I don't have as much energy as I used to have. A couple years ago I got leukemia, and it's in remission now, but about every 2 weeks I get blood. But last time they said I didn't need it, but I've been walking, you know, I've been de-energized. Plus I think I've been disempowered, because my oncologist told me that anytime I wanted blood I could have it. But last time, for some reason I was denied. Now, when things got messed up, I had a poetry reading at a drug rehab house, and they didn't get me in there soon enough, and then they canceled it, so I don't know what happened. I had to get over there and read poetry.
And you know, he's the one guy who didn't have a dime, but he always had an attorney. I could never figure that out.
It's raining. I'm on the west side to get my thumb x-rayed. Was it Lutheran where Uncle Art died? I cut through the market through decades of fruits and vegetables in World War II. And there I begin with Sis on the way to school in the same arcade where everything's alive and tells a story. The poor young sweet potato, after telling Charity made it a cantaloupe, because he squeezed dry making penguins and the lemon they're driving goes out with the boys for a spinach, pulls up the nearest pump. Can you help us? We need asparagus. Vita cries a big grape who looks like it belongs to zucchini. See, we're closed, and throws corn out on his ear. I call that a cauliflower. Artichokes with emotion and swings open the car door. Avocado, desperado. Boys jump out swinging like Tarzan the apricots.
I don't want to die, says the papaya. Call me a cabbage, I'm leaving. Too late. After rhubarb, I was home, the lime for beans, the boils will bail out of jail, and they sail off to work. But it's not up to parsley, so the eggplant's out on strike. Pairs of goons on salary stalk picket lines, peppering them with insults. You dirty radishes! This is the last strawberry, the hatchet, or we'll squash you, we'll mangle you, we'll string your beans up by the nectarines, we'll rustle your sprouts. Turn up tomorrow, you get more than the raspberry. You'll go home with a pineapple. If you ask me no questions, I'll tell you no lie. And Sweet Talk says sweet. And pulls out a banana, splits open those sons of peaches, pits and all. He really creams them. So broccoli surrenders to the onion. Love is everywhere. Sweet potato grabs tomato. Yeah, I'm nuts about you, honeydew. Lettuce, tangerine. You can see I know my peas and cucumbers, no underarmed orange or crazy plum could have made me hum that day, happy as watermelon. Only carrots, loud and hard as nails. It's in the bag, kid. Up, Doc. Bugs Bunny on the streetcar. I eat my roots, roll my eyes heavenward and salute. Now, lucky me, I'm 2 wars older, running late as usual. Where is everyone? Oh, it's Thursday, the market's closed. Our friends, the fruits and vegetables, are off today. The arcade's almost empty. There are only those crossing guards who wish to keep dry, and these gentlemen who do not, the morning body count. Are you my lost uncle, my brother, itinerant artist, veteran of the Starvation Army? Last night was it the slammer or a hallelujah flop? And you old man, you know by heart those nameless dogs where you let soldiers lie. Why are you so grave, sailors? You've tailor-made. I see you've no port, no muscatel. Well, you've come together this day unsaved, the black-toothed crew, tattooed, blue open flies, eyes of salt and humor, surviving wars and rumors. I catch images of myself, my breath in the bad air. Hurry on.
What amazes me today is the turnout in there, and as far as I'm concerned, it's an open mic for all poets.
William Hart. Don't look for peaches in the inner reaches of the city, sitting pretty or shaking his hips the way he once did on the strip. He's gone for good. Only his shadow dances where the street poor take their chances amid the breadcrumbs and the blood. That day the pigeons lost Hart, their friend, and cried. The monarch butterfly found on the sidewalk died. And I wondered whether their souls winged heavenward together.
Okay, Daniel stayed with me for some time before he went to the workhouse in, I think it was 1975. And while in the workhouse, I, who at that time worked at the eastern campus of Cuyahoga Community College, Danny asked me to smuggle him sugarless gum.
If light were music, the night earth spinning toward its golden star, and in that turning the echo of the moon on the water reveals the killer in the mirror, a shadow breathing hard, whose dark weight pitches on the shore, whose heart of glass reads, in case of emergency, break. If light were language, spoken only in tongues by hearts on fire, the wordless eye would sing its blind desire, forgiveness would flow like blood. If light were sound natural to the ground of all beings, would each creature cross the field to comfort each in the deep dreaming? Dream basement dark, no rat scurry, just earth rasp and shutter jinx. Birds that load morning behind garbage rural pick up machine beast rhythms, natural as gearbox light. Low air clock workers up, dog absence profound. One dream back, one howl turn, spiderweb liquidity steps surprise. No cheeky tongue chimes, no internal eye wink balance, only deja voodoo. Easily swayed towards blue like the sky falling, she sighs. Moves on to whatever new weather night in the street bring to her singing. Whether or not the news in the knot of news is the knot of the noose, she must unloosen, then slip through hip to the loose echo shadow and wait, till after the gamble unravels her fate that traveled the darkness, crying her heart out on her rolled up sleeve. No choices now on the road of cold shoulders, a voice noir as raw and sad as love and war for the often soft ears, wounded words carried almost by dream on the injured air, always a stone's throw from ground zero. Oh, bird of fire, harbinger out of the ashes of desire, lean against the silence and sing.
So what's your new project? I heard that you're writing this book about rain, and what's up?
Well, Bree works at Max Bax and Barking Spider. She's put out several interesting books that I've been in. And she asked me, she said like to do a book for me about so I gave her my last poem I wrote was the Rain Poet. So I went through my poems and took out all the poems that have something to do with rain, the word rain in it, or rainbow or rain watch, something, variation. And so I got 24 poems, and we're going to put it out soon. It'll be coming out soon, I hope.
And God threw the stone, flint rock dancing on river breath, timberwood of truth, candle in a boat, its wick burning anthem to homeless freedom, floating toward every shore, cross this lattice work of water, every toe that buoyed on planks of heartfelt love felt right at home. Thank you, Daniel. Until we meet again, God bless.
This is called The Adventures of a Wild-Eyed Western Boy. Once upon a down and out, when time meant more than money, and I was as spoiled as the sky was pie, I heard the sun went west and died, and curious to see what killed the cat, I followed suit, suitcase in hand, threw a cautious thumb to the wind, and whispered darkly, I'm a mad, mad cap. I wandered as low as a grasshopper's knee, and when first I turned the leaves of grass, I kissed Mississippi, the crackers smacked back, oh black democratic soul en masse. The papers called it a freedom ride. I forget the Alamo in San Antone, but not Mrs. Gomez in Crystal City. Her lingo was Spanish, and the gringo Spanish was moved to the beat of the sun on her back. She kept the noise happy in flypaper rooms, and all eyes popped when her green-aged daughter, barefoot lovely, ran for water. Near Indio, I met a blue Indian who must have been bad. Only the dead are good. He had firewater secrets of fire in the desert, and tears in the chapel as above the altar rose an Indian Jesus on a cloud of peyote, on the red hue of angels and a howl of coyote, while outside circled the white bird of prey, noble and savage, just like the good old days. So this is it, and here I am, I said to myself as I hit San Fran, in the promised land of the promised land. To the welcome committee I yelled hello. Nobody answered, so I lay low and broke the silence with bread and wine, and the song I had made just to pass the time rhyming. Here lives a race in pursuit of youth, violence its beauty, comfort its truth. And goodness knows where it has gone, off to a war I know is wrong, so my name is shame, but I'm not to blame. I'm sure you're feeling just the same, but if you're really feeling blue, don't do yourself violence. I'll comfort you, because I'm a wild-eyed Western boy. My trade's good lovin', my trademark's joy. That's an early road poem.
All right, she said, but Daniel's the poet, and who will take his place?
If light were music, the night earth spinning toward its golden star, and in that turning the echo of the moon on the water reveals the killer in the mirror, a shadow breathing hard, whose dark weight pitches on the shore, whose heart of glass raised in case of emergency break. Light were language spoken only in tongues by hearts on fire, the wordless eye would sing its blind desire, forgiveness would flow like blood. Light were sound natural to the ground of all being, would each creature cross the field to comfort each in deep dreaming. Out of loneliness I have fashioned a bird that does not sing, save when where occasions bring stark beauty. Then bird and I are one, and we go mad with song and beat our wings. And through imagination's eye, we even fancy we can fly beyond the skin of things. Then Earth's sad face comes round again, reminds us of the cage we're in, and how stark, raving mad we've been to think we're saved by beauty.
A great colleague, a great guy to work with, and we did a number of projects together, and I'm proud to say that I was part of that recording project that he did when he recorded jazz and poetry, and I enjoy that very much. But as much as I remember that, I will never forget Daniel, the man, the guy that talked the talk and walked the walk. He lived what he believed. And I think that there's nothing more that you could say about a person. Daniel was that.
The shadow breathing hard, whose dark wave pitches on the shore, whose heart of glass reads, in case of emergency, break. If spoken only in tongues, by hearts on fire, the wordless eye would sing its blind desire, forgiveness would flow like blood. If light were sound, natural to the ground of all being, would each creature cross the field to comfort each in the deep dreaming. Train, you've driven your golden spike into the dark night of my soul. Train, you carry my death in the smoky breath of your cities. Train, you're the iron horse, the ironic force that sped up the nightmare of history, our genocidal mystery. Train, it'll be a great day when this wobbly, depressed hobo poet riding the rods finds you're carrying peace. Train, my eyes have been watching you closely. Train, this is now a new freedom train. The new swing low, sweet Harriet Tubman train. No high noon killers on this train. No death nor internment camp counselors on this train. This is no bourgeois train. This is the Woody Guthrie bound for glory train. This is the Leadbelly train, the A train, the A. Philip Randolph Pullman Porter train, the John Colt train, the Ain't I a Woman Sojourner Truth train, the Great Day in the Morning Peace train, train, train. Thank you very much.
Well, you know, I heard that you were like the Freedom Riders, and you like a bodyguard from Martin Luther King.
Well,
that's what the rumor I heard.
Well, in Chicago, when he got hit by a stone before he got to the march, then I watched up front. I was catching bricks people were throwing and stuff. I was in at one march in Chicago, where he called Chicago the most segregated city in America. And other things. I wrote a poem about what happened that day called Dear Enemy, but that day I was, you know, protecting King up front on his right. Also in the marches down into Mississippi, I protected, I was like a marshal on his side. I was watching over Marlon Brando and Burt Lancaster. So anyway, yeah, I always put myself forward. And, you know, I've never really had to fight anybody. Well, one time some construction workers came after me to deconstruct my poem, and I had to just sort of say, "Is this all, you know, violence?" And I, you know, boom against them. But anyway, but basically, I've never had really to fight too much. You know, to save anybody. So in the civil rights movement, I was like the sign man in Birmingham. A policeman would knock somebody down, I'd have my placards and my magic markers, and I'd fall right down with him. I'd write police brutality and hand it to him as he got up. I used to do that.
Okay, just one more question. How's your health? How you doing, man? Because I heard that you wasn't doing too good like a year ago or whatever.
Well, 15 months ago, my oncologist told me that I had leukemia and I had 2 years to live and 2 weeks to take chemo, and the chemo might kill me. But I've sailed through it pretty well. And now about every 2 weeks I go to the lab, and I usually get a couple of units of blood, and I get a lot of good free coffee at the cancer center there. So I get a lot of nicotine and blood there. And but I'm right now I'm doing one of the people working on the listening project for the Women Speak Out for Peace and Justice, where we're interviewing African Americans about how they get their news and what they think of certain things like the budget and Bush and the war and election process. So I've interviewed about 23 people with a partner.
Ask Daniel to help us as we stand in this time of our history in which the forces of evil, and you know who I'm talking about.
Say it.
You shall remain nameless. Seem to be. And we ask the spirit of Daniel to be with us all these times, because we live in the belly of the beast, And someone said, I think it was Che, said, our job is the most important job of all. And we ask you, Daniel, in your new life, to help us continue our struggle for justice for all people, especially the poor and those who have the least strength in their lives. The poor and the black, as Emily says. And so, God, we thank you. We thank you especially for giving us 69 years of this wonderful human being. We thank you for letting us be his companion, his brother, his friend. We thank you especially for the great poetry that has come from Daniel. And we thank you, God, and we help us to live good lives of struggle and peace. And remember him always. Amen.
Farewell and safe passage to Daniel, whose name we call out into the honeyed air of eternity. Daniel, now quiet as a storm.
See you later, Brother Daniel.
Through the skin of night to the bone of the naked heart, the wind's a river for the forest of women standing by the water, their hair glorious in the air. Diamonds, stars, pools of light, leaf fall, electric hum. The weight of the world stacked bound, waiting for newspaper shoulders. The approaching headlights, wet grass, tree lawn, snake branch. The way curves, the hand caressing the moment. Silence like a sky. The streets paved with the gold of autumn, fallen heaven's alchemy. Cat crawl, insect bite, skunk smell. The dense presence of houses where your friends no longer living, where your friends no longer dying. You pass by, step over the sidewalk's web. The floating room coughs in the dark, the deaf child sleeping. Only in your ear the cricket song. Homeward the shadows move, your dog shadowing you, the shadow of death remembered. Again the words come, repeat the crime, the cry, ubiquity of love. Rainwater in a bowl, silver tears on a golden leaf. Into the room's dark gesture, the skin invites itself again. Into the broken light, the reckless eye zeroes in, moving toward the window open to the moon, its errant beauty caught in the tree's calligraphy. This tree where the hanged man, our Savior, lives. Oh, bitter words uprooted from the heart's sweet tongue, carried by the wind's teeth, biting through the stars, to beyond the sky, to the ear of God. I was such a fanatic once. You still are, her voice breaks in. The mirror cracks, blood springs to the hands and feet. You still are, she said, wrapping my trembling life like a homeless street person in the blanket of her phrase. A fanatic of the moment.
Hand to mouth, Abdullah Ibrahim, Sam Phillips, Lauren LaVerse, John Spinzillo, Jordan Khalidi-Dean, the flautist, and Daniel Thompson, Poet Laureate of Cuyahoga County. All right, one more round of applause. Come on, rhythm.
Here we are at Lakeview Cemetery in front of the remains of John D. Rockefeller, robber baron, anti-union man, generally all around industrialist and crook. And we see, of course, his monument, which is literally a monument to irresponsible industrialization. And actually, you know, I think I need to go take a leak. It is more than fitting, I guess, that both Daniel and Rockefeller would be in the same beautiful graveyard. After all, Rockefeller spent his life messing things up, and Daniel spent his life cleaning up that mess. I guess it's now time for us, as we celebrate our friend and mentor and idol and model, that we go on doing that fight, that we go on doing that cleanup. So get out your brooms and maybe do a little dancing with the wild-eyed Western boy as we move on from here.
The ghosts of anarchists are riding bicycles in Lakeview Cemetery. As unemployed poets, bearded and drunk on leisure, put away their pens and pull out their penises to piss on the obelisk of John D. Rockefeller. They pull out their peckers to pee on John D., not because they are so poor they don't have a pot to piss in, but because John D., that oil-slick, philanthropic prick with the thin smile beneath a plutocratic hat and the thin, shiny dime in his long, bony Baptist grasping capitalist hand, a coin he'd offer as if it were a Eucharistic wafer, through his son and others of the same silky ilk and cold-fish militia mentality. Oh, bloody body of Christ, swung low his sweet charity in Ludlow, Colorado, the gun butt to the skull, the boot in the face, everything moving shot up, men dying along with chickens and dogs, the women and children in tents set ablaze, machine gun massacred, all caught in the fiery cave below. Miners and their kin served the hard death again. Miners who dared to stand up and strike. And because his grandson is governor of New York, upholding the family tradition, put a full Nelson on Attica, Attica, Attica. Let's run the tape once more. The chopper drops the gas, the marksmen fire, the troops move in. Men who are not beasts are cut down like beasts. No hostage blindfolded was as blind as his justice. No knife to the throat was as cruel. Oh, pity the women in the eye of the nightmare, and the children of the brothers who died inside. And pity us all in this rocky road, victims of the rocky horror show of those in power who have died inside.